In this tutorial, we're going to go over some camera and lighting techniques for your house. So this is continuing from the previous camera tutorial. So if you have not watched that yet, watch the video before this. So right now, you can see I have my camera walkthrough in here. So I have extended my timeline out to 2000 frames, and I have my camera coming outside here across this line and going back inside the house. So now what I want to do is I want to show you that you can also turn on some different features to make your camera look a little bit better as it goes through your walkthrough. So if I play this right now, you'll see that as my camera starts to go around different corners, it's starting to curve the camera a little bit. The camera is banking around the corners, and it gives it a little bit extra character to the walkthrough. So if you want to have your camera sort of bank as it goes around corners like this, the way you do this is you go over to the motion tab over here, scroll all the way down, and you're looking for this option right here that says bank. So if I turn that off, you see that my camera straightens out now and it's no longer banking, no longer turning. So if I turn bank on, you'll see that the camera kind of shifts left and right a little bit as it goes around a corner. So this is what this option does. And I've changed my amount to 0.2 and 0.1. Now this may vary depending on the size of your scene and the timeline as well. So you might have to go and adjust these settings. But these are your settings here to control your banking amount. So I've left mine on 0.2 and 0.1 for now. And I like the way it looks, the result. So next up, I want to go and add some lighting to my scene. So first, what I have done is I've gone to the material editor here and I've set up some materials in here already. So I have an environment map that I'm going to use for the background. I'm going to use this image to both light the scene and it's going to serve as my background as well. So I'm going to rename this to environment. That's what it is. Now I have this plugged into a skylight and the viewport background itself. And this is my multi-step object that I use for my windows and doors. I wanted to make everything one flat color. So what I did was I used just the standard material, nothing fancy, nothing at all, for the overall shading of everything. And then I have another standard material that serves as the window material. So I'm going to name this window. So if we look at my sub object here, I notice that this is window. And everything else is basically this object here. Now I've applied this to all objects in the scene. So if I go back out of here, I'm going to go to my display tab and I'm going to turn off object color and put it on a material color. So now I can see my actual materials in the scene and I don't have any textures. Everything's just a flat solid color. So if I want to, I can go back to my material here and I can change the color to a little bit darker here and you'll see it updates in the viewport as well. So this kind of gives the illusion that my scene has gone day and then it's starting to go to nighttime. And it's kind of a cool effect in the viewport. But I'm going to set it at sort of a gray value here, a dark gray value. And we're going to use this as a base color for my scene. And now I have a skylight I dropped in here. So if I go to my lights over here, I've already started to put lights in my scene. I'm using a combination of skylight and spotlight. So these lights right here, these are all instances of each other. So to take a look at the lights, let's say I go turn off the third and second floor and the roof. I have a light here, which is on the second floor, and I have this light and the light for the garage. Now I'm going to go and turn these lights on through the light lister. I'm just going to toggle these on. And to able to see it in the viewport, I'm going to go turn this on realistic mode and then go to lights and shadows and turn this on illuminate with scene lights. So now I can see my lights in my scene. And I can see that I have sort of a yellowish tint to my lights. So when I go through my scene here, you can kind of see the lighting is sort of yellow. So now what I want to do is I want to separate some of these colors here. I have everything pretty much. I open back up my not my render, my light lister here. I can toggle these on and off. You can see in the viewport that this toggles the lights on and off. I can change the color back to a white value here. That's what I want to do. And now when it comes to this light here, I want to break the instance of it. So I want to make this light unique. So this upstairs light here, let me show you what this is. If I go to the second floor and I can scroll up through here and go up to the second floor. There we go. There we go. On upstairs. This is the light here in the second floor. So I want to make this one unique. So I'm going to go to modify and I'm going to make unique. And I'm going to change the color in here to maybe a yellowish tint. So something like that. Appears my light isn't updating. Take a look at what this is doing. So I have the light in here. Let me turn on realistic for this viewport. And I have changed the color, but it is not actually doing anything. So we're going to have to figure that one out. Let's go back to the light lister. I see I have my light here. And it appears my viewport is not updating at all. So this is a weird bug. Let's see if we can work around this. I might have to save this and restart Max. Try to see if I can fix that error. I've actually had the scene open for quite a while now, so it might have some bugs in there. So hopefully restarting the program will fix any issues I have, and we'll see if the lighting actually shows up now. So when the scene loads back up, all right, have Max back open, waiting for it to load. All right, I want to load that scene back up. Okay, so now it looks like my lighting did update. So I'm going to go to Light Lister, and I'm going to turn this back on. Yep, there it is. Now the light is updated. Color is there. That's the rest of my lights. In the downstairs level. So if I go back up to the second floor, we can see there's the light right there. It has in fact updated. And I can go and change the light color now. Maybe if I want to make it something like a lavender color. Something cool. Maybe if I want to break up the lighting down here a little bit. So I'm scrubbing back. And maybe, let's say in this room over here, I want to have this a different color. So I'm going back to second floor. Going to this light here for this room. I'm going to make unique. And I'm going to make this sort of a bluish tint. just so we have some kind of variation on our lights. I'm going to make unique for this light here as well. And I'm going to make this sort of yellow. There we go. So now we have some different color lighting going on in the house. Turn back on the second and third floor and the roof. And now I'm going to activate my skylight over here and turn that on. And you'll see my scene gets a lot brighter. You see this in the viewport, it starts to cast some shadows here and there. Now if I go to this viewport and just let it sit in here, you'll see that it's actually going to relight the scene. And one thing I want to show you, when I go through here, and if I'm in an area that has windows like this, let's say I go back and look at this hallway here where the windows are, and I'm going to let this update. You can see the light is actually shining through the windows here. So this skylight, let's take a look at what it has. I have a map enabled in this. So this map here is actually the same map that's in my material editor. So this environment map here is plugged into this channel here. So if I look at this image, I'm going to go to view image. This is what the image looks like. This is a high dynamic range image. You can find these online for free. Mac ships with a couple of these. I downloaded this from a free site. And this gives me a cool environment to simulate, and it actually uses the color and pixel information in here to light the scene. So I also have this plugged into the environment channel. If I go to 8 on the keyboard, or if I go to rendering, here it is right here, environment. I also have this environment map plugged into the background here. So the effect you get is you can see the background in the viewport. So if I look through my camera view, if I look outside my doors here, you can see the background is actually populated in here. So my lighting is pretty much set like I want it. I can go back and make some changes here and there. You can see when I let it sit, the lighting is going to update. It's going to look pretty cool. Save. And now what I want to do is I want to add a little bit more to my walkthrough here. Let's say I want to animate my doors opening and closing. Let's open. Yes. I want to animate my doors opening and closing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn off my material color and go back to object color so I can see this. And I'm going to turn off all my lights. So I'm going to go back to the light lister and I'm just going to turn these off. I'll leave the skylight on. Or I can just go in here and turn it to shaded mode so it pretty much blows out the lighting. It goes back to default. So no lighting information is in here. Now I want to animate my door. So as I approach this door, I want it to start opening. So click, have the door selected. I'm going to turn on auto key. And let's say about frame 40, I want my door to start opening. So I need to set a start keyframe down here. So I'm going to go to the modify tab and I'm going to go to where it says open, and I'm just going to wiggle this door open and close. So now it sets a keyframe right here. Now notice it also sets a keyframe on frame 0. I'm just going to delete that. And I'm going to go off to about frame 60 and I'm going to have my door open. So here's the effect I get. I go back to the beginning, hit play, my door opens. So if I want to, I can actually go back in and kind of move these keyframes out a little bit. Say I want to have it open here and move out to 70, so it opens a little bit slower. So as the camera goes through, the door opens. There we go. Now I'm going to leave all the inner doors open because they don't need to open and close. So I'm going to leave that alone. Now let's say when I get to here, I want to have my door start to close. So give it another cool effect. So I'm going to copy this keyframe here by selecting it, holding shift and dragging this out to here. And I want my door to be closed, let's say about frame 445. I'll have the degrees closed. So here's the effect I get. When I come back around the corner, the door closes. There we go. So now I'll go forward a little bit into the timeline. Now I need this door to be closed as well, but I'm going to turn off auto key and I'm just going to close that door because I'm going to animate that later. I'm going to leave the garage door closed and we go upstairs. I want this door here initially closed. Everything else is going to be open. That's fine. That's fine. Go into this room. Everything looks good. Now this is where I want this door to start to open. So with this door selected now, I'm going to turn back on auto key. Let's say at frame 1728, I want it to start opening. So I'm just going to wiggle that open and close to set that keyframe. And I'm going to delete the 0 keyframe that it created. I'm going to go forward in the timeline a bit. Let's say frame 1746, and I'm going to open that door. Let's go back. There we go. I'm going to go back to this keyframe here, and I'm going to change the degrees to say 135. So if I play this back again, here we go. Maybe I'll have the door open a little bit earlier. So let's say 1720, I want my door to start opening. Move that keyframe back. There we go. It's a little bit smoother. So as I go down the stairs, back to this door, this is where I want this door to start opening. So I'm going to wiggle this keyframe again, open and close it, delete the 0 keyframe, go forward in time a little bit till it gets to right about on top of the door, and I want the door to open. There we go. And there's the end. So I just have a few doors open and closing here. If I go back to the beginning and play this again, this door opens. I have all the rest of my doors closed. That looks good. Going through here, everything seems to be looking right. Have that door closed. Going back through. That door is closed initially. Going through. And we're just going to speed up time a little bit. So we go upstairs. And then right about here, this is where this door starts to open, like so. Then I go back down, staircase, open the sliding door, and back to my beginning. So there's my animation. I'm going to turn back on my material color here. And I'm also going to turn on realistic so I can see my lighting. Make sure it's on illuminate with scene lights. And now I want to do a render of my view. I want to do a test render. Now, none of you are going to have time to do a full render. And when I mean full render, I mean when you hit F10 and go to your render setup and hit this render button here, that's a full render. Especially with my animation, I have it at 2000 frames currently. So if I were to start rendering this out, this is going to take a very, very long time. So let's take a look and see how we can rectify that. So instead of doing a full render, you can do a viewport render instead. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this little plus sign here. I'm going to go to create preview, create animated preview, and I wanted my active time segment, so 0 to 1500. That's fine. I want it 30 frames per second. I want my output to be 100%, so 1280 by 720. I only want to render out geometry. I want to show the background, I want to show highlights, and I don't actually have texture, so I don't even need that checked. I want to make sure it's on realistic mode, and I'm going to output to an AVI file. Now, you'll notice here that I have XVID MPEG 4 codec. This is something that you will not have on your machine. This is a special codec that I downloaded, and this here compresses your video quite a lot. So I'm just going to cancel out of that and leave that on. I'm going to make sure I'm rendering through my camera view, and I'm going to hit create. Now it's going to go through the entire scene, and it's going to render a frame really fast at each frame here. You can see it's kind of going through the timeline now. So this is a preview of what my animation is going to look like once this actually finishes. You can see as you go through here, the lighting has updated to be image-based lighting. You can see the lights that I added in the scene, in the individual rooms, and as it goes through the hallways where you have the windows, you can see the skylight starting to pour through the window and actually illuminate the room there. You can see uh, the shadow of the glass panels for the actual windows in there, so it's looking pretty cool. So I'm going to stop this and I'm going to come back when this is actually finished, and we'll take a look at the final product. All right, so the render has finished, and I have it here in the video, so I'm just going to hit play. So you can see my scene is really bright outside. So as it goes in, you can see how the lighting has updated in the viewport. Now, mind you, this is a quick viewport render, so this isn't how the final quality would look. Let's say if I did a full render. So you can see along the edges of the wall here, there's a little light bleeding inside of the wall, and that necessarily wouldn't show up in the final render, but this is just a render preview for a viewport. And this is kind of what I want you to do for your project because, like I said, you're not going to have enough time to do a full render, especially with textures and materials and lighting all in your scene. This scene right here has no textures in it whatsoever. It has just two materials and a handful of lights. So this is what everything looks like, how it came out. You can see the outdoor environment that I plugged into the environment map channel, and that's where it stops. So I hope this was useful. This is what I expect to see for your final render. Another thing that I didn't mention here is when you use the skylight and you want to see your background here, right now you can't see the background, but you can see it in this viewport here. Now the reason is because I turned on viewport background. So if you go to your viewport label for your render mode, if you scroll down to viewport background, and you go to environment background and turn that on, now you can see that I can see my environment in my viewport now. So this is a really cool effect in here to see your actual background in here. So I'm going to turn on realistic in here as well. I'm going to let that sit. So now you can kind of see the shadowing of this. Your image actually creates shadows based on the lighting information. So this is a really cool way to fake a background environment. Now, I know that it looks a little bit weird in the viewport, but when you do a final render, all of this should clear up. So, but I'm like I said, I'm not expecting you to do a final render because you won't have time, especially if you have to render out a sequence that has 2,000 frames like mine. So that's basically it for lighting your actual scene and the camera walkthrough. If you have any questions, just email me.